Yo, what's up out there, internet? This is your boy VONB. All right, so I am trying something a little different because my channel is called Gaming and Culture, and I've been talking a lot about movies and whatnot. And I figured I should probably start talking about gaming a little bit more. I tried let's play type stuff, and I found that I wasn't really actually playing the games, which kind of sucks. But so I'm trying this podcast with a friend of mine. He's trying to get his situation stuff situated, and when that happens, he'll be able to join me. I'm not sure about the day yet, but this is more like a little test run. Probably gonna talk for like maybe 30 minutes or something like that. All right, so let's get into one of the articles that I looked up. All right, share this. Hmm. All right. Okay, make sure I got all right. Article. This is on Text for Gamers. I have been getting a lot of information from this site. If anybody has some suggestions of others that are not, you don't have to be leaning right, but not like most of the other ones are kind of like super left wing and they have very weird takes on everything. This one, for the most part, seems to be kind of in the middle. So I've been using it. All right. So the article is called Kojima says the most interesting games are being made right now are indies, and story highlights and whatnot. Kojima Productions has recently released one of the most critically acclaimed games in 2025, Death Stranding 2. I didn't even know that came out. I didn't really like the first one. It felt kind of like you were, and I guess the whole premise is that you're a delivery guy in a Kojima world. So there's a lot of interesting stuff happening. So I didn't really play that one. I couldn't get into it. So all right, while the monster man behind the game, Hideo Kojima didn't want to appeal to the mass media. His game has received a pretty positive reception from almost everyone, which is good. We need less cookie cutter games, more odd games where you don't necessarily have to be. Everyone needs to be into it, but there needs to be a variety again. We don't need any more Call of Duty clones or various live services that are basically just set up to make you money, make the company money, like it's a giant phone game. Which I'll be glad when we get past this particular phase. All right, why it matters. Hideo Kojima is known for his work on the industry by almost every gamer. His legendary auteur, who has revolutionized gaming more than once. In the same interview, Kojima said that most every single AAA game out there looks the same. Like I just said. As there is too much lack of variety, Kojima seems actually disappointed in the state that the industry is in. Like I did a reaction to this lady's video, and she was basically proclaiming that the Western gaming industry is doomed. And I agree with her. And the most part, what I got out of it is she was very positive about it, giving suggestions and whatnot. But my takeaway from it is the corporatization of these games. They don't really care about the end product as long as it makes them money. And at some point, that starts to reflect how the games are. And kind of this is what he's probably touching on is they all look the same because they figure out all right what makes the most money. And right now is Call of Duty and Fortnite. So they keep trying to make their own version of these things. It's like there can only be one of this stuff. You can make a version of it and it can get some play, but if you want to revolutionize stuff, like you got to make your own thing. And I don't think that fits the corporate model. All right. I think it's very important to put something new in games for the industry instead of just chasing visuals. Yeah, because I think we're at the point where you can't unless we get to completely photorealistic, I don't think you can improve on it, and I don't think that would actually improve gaming that much because some of the most popular games had very basic kind of visuals, and they're still classics. Concerns are absolutely valid, as the majority of developers are chasing the same trend, and that is getting boring. Yes. Kojima created Death Stranding 2, which, while it seems bizarre, is pretty enjoyable and may not be for everyone, like I said before. And that is fine. He thinks that a game should be unique and feature new things and make it different from others. So Kojima is right to think that most interesting games being developed are now indies, such as Claire Obscure Expedition 33, which is a good game. Muse is a perfect example, as this game came out of nowhere and is now the highest user rated game on Metacritic. And this game has influenced the RPG genre for the better. Like, sorry about that. What are your thoughts on this claim? I'm agreeing with it. Until we get back to that, where you can have smaller dev teams making smaller games and with reasonable budgets that can actually make a profit on, as opposed to these ridiculous, like, I'm still tripping that Spider-Man 2 cost like $250 million. And when you look at it, it's like, I don't really see where the 250 mil came from. Ow. Just hit my elbow. No, I don't know. Excuse me. It is hot right now in California. I know I'm not one to complain because it's hot like everywhere because it is summer. So, but all right, I gotta let's see. Oh, okay. The next thing I saw is like these two articles came out on the same day. One group of devs believe that exclusivity for games is no longer a viable strategy in a survey, and the other one says Sony should keep games exclusive for PlayStation and focus 90% on single player titles, says former Ben Studio dev. So, PlayStation. So let's check out the first one. Like I said, this is gonna be a really quick thing because it's more like a test run kind of deal. Because I think this is the kind of stuff where it is better to have more than one person so you can get different like viewpoints. I think that once you get big enough where you can have an audience, then they can chime in and give their 2 cents and you can have something to talk about. Otherwise, I'm just reading articles. So let's share the next screen what I'm talking about. Alrighty. Okay. Sure. Devs believe exclusivity for games is no longer a viable strategy. The practice of exclusivity has persisted a long time in the gaming industry. Well, yeah, because you got different flavors for different consoles. The main type of games for Nintendo aren't the kind of games that you make for Xbox. And same thing with PlayStation and Xbox and PlayStation, which is a good thing. And it gives you more of a reason to like purchase the console. But again, back to what I was saying before, is like these corporations don't seem to care about that. So they seem to want the same game on everything, and you should be able to play it on whatever. I'm like, no, I want to play a Nintendo game on the Switch. I want to play an Xbox game, and it used to be Xbox games, especially during the Xbox 360 era. And I want to play a Sony PlayStation game. These were all different things. They had some games that went across all of them, but they all had their unique stuff, from Halo to Mario to not just Spider-Man, but like God of War, Gears of War, all these different types of games that were unique to the system. And while it's great that you'll be able to play them on other systems, I kind of miss that. And I think that's one of those things, like once that's gone, the gaming industry will not be the same. The practice of exclusivity has persisted for a long time in the industry and should continue. With platforms like PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch making a name for themselves through a solid library of exclusive first-party offerings. Yeah, they cannot say the PlayStation 5 because PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X do not have any games. It is like insane the lack of games on either of those systems. However, games like Helldivers 2 and Gears of War moving to rival platforms have led to a debate. Many believe exclusivity is no longer as important, and a survey from Gamescom revealed that developers agreed that this is the case. Why it matters, PlayStation latest job listing basically confirmed that the gaming giant will port more titles to other platforms. At the same time, Xbox is shown its commitment to third-party releases over the last year. Gamescom kicks off later this month. Okay, there should be some more. Hopefully, there's some games coming out. And developers from all over the industry are looking forward to the event. And in addition to game announcements and reveals, developers are looking forward to DevCom, a part of Gamescom focused on developers and their experiences. DevCom surveys have always been shared. Have also been learn to read. Have also been shared recently, revealing interesting insight into the industry's thoughts on various subjects, including exclusivity. According to the survey, 94% of the respondents no longer believe full exclusivity is a great strategy. 32% believe exclusivity will die out altogether, while 34% expect to see more time exclusives moving forward. Only 6% of all respondents have believed that studios will continue to take exclusivity seriously, signaling major decline in the trend. I think most of it, like the first two, are probably just folks who are just, this is going to happen, and there's nothing that you can do about it, because you can see that like Nintendo's not doing that, but you can see that Xbox and Sony have that in their mind. Like, I think that once that happens, it's gonna kill. It's gonna be one less enjoyable thing about gaming. Among the major competitors, Nintendo seems to be the only one still sticking with the tried and true approach of exclusivity, which is working out for it. Because if you can play any game on any system, why would you get a underpowered system to play games on, where it has to work miracles to get it to work? Other than figuring out, it's like, all right, we need to make games that are unique to us, that work on our system, and that people can only buy them on a system, which is one of the main reasons why Nintendo is so adamant about going after people for ROMs and whatnot. Yeah, so however, they still ported smaller titles like Wonderful 101 to PC in the past. Yeah, like one game. So I wonder if there's any comments on this. No, there's no comments. Yeah, so you get this one, and then we have this one. Share this particular tab instead. All right, so Sony should keep games exclusive to PlayStation and focus 90% on single player titles, says former Ben Studio dev. Recently, the game industry went into total chaos because of job posting by Sony. The posting suggests that the company will follow the same multi-platform strategy as Xbox. Helldivers 2 is set to release on Xbox this month, which has made people more skeptical. The majority of the fans are throwing tantrums at the thought of Sony releasing more games on Xbox. A former developer on Ben Studio is also against the idea. As he said, PlayStation games should remain on a dedicated console, and the gaming giant should focus 90% on single-player titles. Yeah, we need to drag gaming back to how it was a decade or so ago. That would be like in the heyday of like the end part of the PlayStation 3, and you had Xbox 360, where you had a plethora of games. I don't think the games didn't cost nearly as much to make, and they had more variety of titles. So like you would if you went back to more single player focused games, smaller games that are focused on just telling you a story, because that's why we got Mass Effect and we got all these other games, because they focus on telling a story. And even though they had corporate entities involved with it, it wasn't nearly as bad. And I don't know if we're gonna ever go back to that, but like I kind of wish that we would. So what he says was PlayStation needs to keep PlayStation games on PlayStation, focus 90% on single player games for your development cycles. Yeah. Shorten the scope of major titles, fund indie teams to with proven prototypes, less contractors, more staff positions, increased cross sharing of proprietary systems, pipeline processes, form 30 people special teams at each first party studio working on original unique prototypes, build stronger culture of listening to each member of the team over focus groups, encourage, reward, and promote the outspoken team members more, not yes men. Yeah, all that sounds good, but the problem is, and I keep harping on this, but that's not how corporations work. That's not how they think. Is they tend to need to be forced into complying to what people actually want. It's like Warner Brother has failed on their last live service game, and yet they're still looking for people to create the next live service game because they want their own Fortnite. They don't care how many studios they kill or whatever to get it, but that's what they want. And which is crazy is because part of the video that I watched was Eastern companies, they don't think like that. So they're it's the same thing when it comes to like what's crazy is the same concept when it comes to comics. It's like anime is kicking their butt because they're niche anime, more popular anime, but there's a wide variety. For whatever reasons, corporations do not like wide variety of anything. I don't know why. It's very weird because you'll never get that next breakout hit unless you do some kind of like you gotta fail and not fail in you giving people the same thing over and over and over again. You gotta fail that you gotta try something new. You gotta try to fly. Like every now and then you're gonna fall, but you get that one or two times you're gonna fly. So you gotta actually try it. And corporations don't think like that. Robert Morrison, a former developer. Okay. Twitter thinks the company shouldn't opt out for the multi-platform strategy and focus mainly on single player titles. Yeah, because the biggest thing about what Xbox is doing, I get why they're doing it because they have a huge foothold in the PC market. So I can understand why they're focused on the PC as well as Xbox. But that's Microsoft. Microsoft is a huge company that can afford to lose money on some aspects and make it up in other aspects. So, like, yeah, they don't sell as many consoles, but they really want you to get on Game Pass. So, in order for you to get on Game Pass, because that's a steady income, and it's the main reason why we got so many versions of Netflix because all these various companies are looking for that steady income. They'd rather instead of selling you a $60 to $80 game, they would rather sell you $20 service every month because the ebb and flow of games is there are months where there'll be nothing out, like nothing. So they won't be making any money in those months. But if they can get you to give them $20 every month, it is a steady source of income. So, like I said, I understand completely why Microsoft is doing what they're doing. I don't really get why Sony is because Sony cannot operate like Microsoft can. Sony has not confirmed that it aims to release more games on Xbox or Nintendo, but were quick to connect the dots, and the company may announce the inevitable soon. But the fandom and many popular figures will likely be unhappy with this decision. Ben Studio's former developer also doesn't seem to be a fan of the strategy. He has made other good suggestions about what PlayStation needs to do. Morrison thinks that the gaming giant should focus on a 4-year development cycle, shorten the scope of okay, that's just a rehash of what he said. So do we have no comments on that either? All right. No, but I agree with this. Because the 4-year, like no 10-year friggin' development cycle. Because what you start with, because the way technology is shifting, you start with this, and then new technology comes out 3 years into your thing, and then you scrap everything that you just did, and you got to redo everything over again for the new engine and whatever. So by the time it comes out, your story is 10 years old, and it's like it's Frankenstein monster thing that you're trying to, and it just doesn't make for a good game. 4 years, it still seems a lot, but this dude works for it, so I guess there must be like the sweet spot that allows you to your story can be still somewhat current, I guess. So I don't know. All right. That I agree more with the second guy and not so much with the devs who are complaining about the first one. All right. So how long have we been at this? Okay. All right. Well, Battlefield 6 just came out, the beta. I'm not really into that type of stuff for like I used to be. I don't know. I used to be into more role play, like these types of games. But it is so many like I know it's always been like this, and it's easy to kind of ignore. It's best when you have a large group of friends who you can make your own thing and play just with each other. When you get these huge multiplayer stuff, you get so many jerks and douchebags doing jerky and douchebag type stuff, and kind of soured me on that this stuff in general. But you got to talk about at least a little bit because Battlefield, like EA is coming for Call of Duty, at least trying to. So hopefully they made Battlefield its own thing and not just a carbon copy of Call of Duty because they've tried that the last couple of Battlefields and it ain't worked out for them. So, all right. Battlefield's a direct competitor to Call of Duty, but after the release of Battlefield 2042, the situation has changed. The fandom criticized the game since it seemed like a downgrade to its predecessors in every way possible. And it's kind of what I'm talking about. Is it used to be its own thing, and then they tried to tap into what Call of Duty is doing. So then it became like a worse version of Call of Duty. At the same time, Call of Duty is turning into a worse version of Call of Duty. So that just makes it funny. Fortunately, Battle 6 is starting to change the fandom's view as the multiplayer gameplay reveal was met with nothing but positive reception. However, Activision doesn't seem to care much as the leadership doesn't even consider Battlefield 6 a threat. Yeah, right now, no. If the game is good, Battlefield 7, they will. Right, Madness Battlefield is finally has changed the claim Call of Duty's throne. I don't know about that. But it's pretty surprising to see Activision not caring at all. I don't know, something wrong with my throat today. Tom Henderson of Insider Gaming recently revealed that the leadership at Activision isn't worried about Battlefield 6 at all. They think Call of Duty has become too big to fail. Yeah, right. No game is too big to fail. All you are 2 or 3 games like gaming cycles away from people not caring about your game. Mass Effect used to be one of the biggest games. Nobody cares about that. Dragon Age, just the laundry list of these games that have been destroyed by various reasons, wokeness, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, that is how you actually wind up destroying yourself because you start thinking like that. Said, which may come across as an arrogant statement. Yeah, it is. It's not that the leadership isn't worried about the game at all. They are keeping a close eye on upcoming Battlefield, but are not concerned with the competition. The leadership thinks the franchise will remain profitable for years to come. Probably. NBA 2K is profitable, I guess, mostly because there's no competition. But in terms of popularity on YouTube, a lot of not all of them, but a lot of the guys who that was the focus of their channel, they don't even talk about this game anymore because they just started handing it in. It was basically the same game as last year. All right. This news comes from Activision employees who remain anonymous, but Tom Henderson is a solid track record when it comes to such information, so his support can be trusted. On the other hand, Battlefield 6 developer is very confident in the quality of the game as it aims to attract 100 million players. Wow. That's crazy. Also, not worth noting that unlike the upcoming Call of Duty, Battlefield 6 won't be releasing on old gen consoles. Well, I have PlayStation 5, so that's fine. The I never bought like this cycle will be the first Xbox that I have not purchased an Xbox. Like Xbox usually is my main, but I had an idea like when I got the opportunity to buy one of them, and they both came kind of popped up at the same time. God of War was out for the PlayStation. So that's why I bought the PlayStation instead of the Xbox. In hindsight, I wish I would have bought the Xbox because right now my PlayStation 5 is a YouTube, Netflix watching thing. It is collecting dust. I haven't played a game on it in months because I got a PC and I can just play games on my PC. But this goes to the exclusivity thing that I was talking about earlier. Is if they had games that I couldn't get on anything else, then I'd be more inclined to play on my PlayStation. And same thing on the Xbox. But since these companies are going in that the route, if they're gonna put it on PC, I'll just play it on PC. Like I don't need to play it on one of these things. So I think this is gonna just bite them in the butt. It's also worth noting that unlike the upcoming Call of Duty, Battlefield 6 won't be R. It still can't be determined what will happen as both games may shock the fandom on release, and only one will be fighting for the top spot. Uh, eh, okay. Like I said, I used to be a huge multiplayer type guy. It just kind of like that's been the case for like a lot of games lately. But I have been enjoying a lot of like Hideo Kojima has been saying. I have been enjoying a lot of smaller games. So hopefully we will drift back in that particular area. All right. So like I said, I was only gonna do about 30 minutes of this. Hmm. Well, I got two more to go, two more articles. All right. Nintendo has decided to raise their price on the Switch, and I haven't looked into it, so let's see what this article has to say about it. All right. The recent U.S. tariffs saw a massive increase in prices for different categories of products nationwide. Since then, the market has been very uncertain, with prices fluctuating continuously, and has had another big impact. Now, when the tariffs first was mentioned, Nintendo said the price that they were giving for their systems had nothing to do with the tariffs. So I am curious as to whether or not that has changed, or they wanted to raise the price and they decided to use the tariff as an excuse to do so. Nintendo has announced it's increasing the price of the original Switch across all of its variants, taking the market conditions into account. Some Switch 2 accessories will also see a price hike, but the console remains the same price for now. Why it matters, inflating the price of the Switch 2 almost guarantees that we might see the same for Switch 2 later down the line, unless they're attempting to get people to buy the Switch 2 as opposed to the Switch. Because if the prices are closer to this or closer to each other, then maybe people will be more inclined to just spend a little extra money and get the Switch 2. So maybe that's part of the strategy. And like I said, the tariffs have nothing to do with this. So this is what they said. Pricing for original Switch family of systems and products will change in the United States based on market conditions effective August 3rd. So it's already happened. These include Nintendo Switch, OLED model, Nintendo Switch Lite, and select Switch accessories. Ugh. Never buy cheap chicken. So they got me gassy. Which is probably shouldn't say that. Other Nintendo products include certain Nintendo Switch 2 accessories, blah, blah, blah. All right. So it just reiterated what they said before. Through the official statement announced that the price increase for Nintendo Switch. Each potential price hike for the Switch 2 is also coming soon. Now, with stock available from many major retailers, it makes currently best time to buy a Switch 2 before Nintendo revises and increases its prices. New prices will be effective August 3rd in the US. There's no, man, it's amazing how much all this stuff keeps tying into the exclusivity thing. I have a Switch. I have not seen anything on the Switch 2 that will make me inclined to spend another $400 on it. I don't care about the uprise in graphics. I don't care about none of the stuff like the better Joy-Cons. I don't ever play mine in the unit anyway, so I use it as a handheld all the time, and I can't imagine that the Switch 2 I wouldn't do the exact same thing. So I don't really care about none of that stuff. So This is when there's a game that's out that's only on the Switch 2 and I cannot play it on the Switch and I want to play that game, then I will be more inclined to purchase the Switch 2. And this is another reason why exclusivity is a good thing. All right. So to finish out the evening, we have a censorship type joint. A lot of crazy stuff is happening all over the world. Games like GTA and Saints Row at risk for being delisted amid mass censorships. Yeah, the nanny state is in flux all over the world. All these corporate folks and governments are trying to tell you what you should talk about, what you should be able to read, what you should be able to play. I think all that stuff is BS. All right, so mass censorship has been a heated topic of discussion following the recent changes in the UK. The UK is lost. All we can do is keep that from happening in America. On the gaming front, companies like Visa and MasterCard have pressured platforms like Itch and Steam to remove games with inappropriate content. But I think they're getting a lot of pushback. I think they're getting more pushback than they were expecting. So that may resolve itself. Although the situation is still developing, another platform has warned gamers that the situation could be far worse. And in the future, even major AAA titles could be impacted by these problems. Why it matters, gamers are split on the recent events. Not so much split. I think most of us hate the whole censorship stuff. Don't tell me what I can buy. Don't tell me what I can play. Don't tell me if I want to play whatever. That should be my prerogative. It's my money. The government should not be telling me these things. According to Gaming on Linux, Zoom platform, a retro game seller, has recently faced problems with payments similar to itch.io. The platform claims it's been contacted about concerns about the type of content available on the site. This reminds me of the 90s and actually the 80s, where you had all these concerned citizens trying to tell everybody what music that they should listen to, because apparently the music that they didn't like was all devil's music or something like that. So we could probably at some point tell these people the same thing: piss off. If you don't like it, don't buy it. Don't tell me what to do. All right. Doesn't currently intend to remove any available content, but has already begun exploring alternate payment options. However, the retro game seller believes that it's just the beginning. See, this is what happens when we went away from paper money. Paper money is a lot of shenanigans are because of this. That's from the shenanigans of games that you purchased in the past that you can no longer play because you don't have access to them for many reasons, from licensing and stuff like that, to them being able to stop you from being able to purchase the thing that you want. You work hard for your money, and then you're gonna have somebody at MasterCard or Visa tell you can't buy this thing because they don't think that you should buy it. And I think it's like I don't think it's necessarily Visa or MasterCard who are pushing this. I think it's some organization that is pushing on them that has some kind of ties, I guess, that are severe enough that these companies are listening to them. Because at this point, if you ain't realized that these people who are yelling about all of this stuff represent a small percentage of the population, I don't know what to tell you. So it warns that franchises like Grand Theft Auto, Duke Nukem, Saints Row are potentially at risk. Among these IPs, Grand Theft Auto will be the biggest target since the series has a history of being controversial due to its satirical and over-the-top nature. The next version of this thing is going to make $1 billion. I do not know how anybody think that they'll be able to stop that. But I've seen all kind of stuff, crazy stuff. With GTA 6 on track to launch next year, the game could face problems as the new approach to censorship continues to expand and evolve. Elsewhere in the UK is mandating facial recognition and age verification for access to various type of content. Even NVIDIA's PC application now demand age verification for those looking to adjust their settings. This is the world we are going into. This is the kind of stuff where, like they say, oh, we need a revolution or whatever. This is the kind of stuff that leads to that kind of thing, where you get a handful of people dictating the morality and various things to the world, and that never ends well. It always starts off kind of small, you know, and it goes from one thing. So you don't care about this particular thing. So this gets affected. You don't care about that. So therefore you ignore it. Then it moves over to the next thing, and then the next thing, and eventually it gets to the thing that you like. And when that happens, there's nobody there to fight for you because you didn't fight for the stuff that you didn't like. All right. So that is episode 1 of the Casey and VONB gaming podcast. Anyone who listens to this later, hope you like it. And gonna work the bugs out of this, but relatively short. All right. So please like, share, and subscribe if you're looking at this on the so any reposts tomorrow. All right, later.